Now on the bench today is my poor little heavy dump truck. It has taken a pounding in its time and it's now showing, and it's time to replace the chassis. It's only breaking in one area, exactly the same point both sides. But first let's get the body off and out of the way. It's a nice easy body to remove, that's the great thing about it. And it's off. Now there is a couple of weak points on this which I'm going to go over. Now first of all, with bashing and time, it's a common fault on Tamiya is their hexes. They're fragile and they do break, but mine is fitted with the alloy ones, so I do not have that issue at all, which is good. The other place where it did break, funny enough, was the steering. Let's get this last wheel off. Now we can see things. And the other thing that broke was the steering part here. You do get a replacement for the parts I've brought, but being truthful, they weren't required. Other things what will eventually break will be steering joints and things like that, but these are pretty good and they're pretty easy to get. These parts are readily still available. They're still used on the Wild Willy 2. They date back to originally from the TL01 and the Wild Dagger, so parts have been pretty much around. I have to admit these collars have gone weak on the suspension, they're not holding, so I might make some 3D printed ones and replace them, because these have gone loose. You can see they're failing. Eventually I might buy new shocks, because there is some, actually squeezing them you can get them back in. Just bend them a bit. That'll fix them for now. But I've seen some shocks I fancy, but I haven't got the money for them, so things will have to wait. So, but the reason I'm replacing the chassis, though it looks perfect, considering the bashing this has took, the worst is a few rubs underneath. But the problem is at the rear. It's where the shocks mount, it is split in. Like I said, it has landed badly many times on the rear, so you expect something to go. So there is a replacement set you can buy. This cost me, I think I paid 27, so it weren't too bad. But you do get the chassis, which is what is the main parts updating. New steering arm, so that's a good spare. The hexes I don't use. The other steering, like I said, I've got the alloy upgrade. And you also get a spare battery tray, which I might use the new one. I'll probably use the original because everything's stuck onto it already. If that makes sense, it's easier to transfer things over. But I'll prep the new parts and then we'll do a strip down and do. Oh, there is one other place that I do upgrade, and I'm going to have to drill the chassis, is the wishbones. The pin that screws into the chassis is into the hub, fine, because it's hard plastic they don't come undone. But because it's soft plastic, the same screw going into that, after a period of time they get loose, they wind out, they fall off, and they are a pain. So I've always done this. What I use is a flange tube in the chassis. So I drill the chassis, push a flange tube in, which makes it stronger, and then just use the screw and a a nylock nut that goes all the way through, and there's no way it can undo itself. So that is like a solid good fix. But if anything else comes up on the strip down, I will tell you. But what I'm going to do is going to speed it up, and we'll have a time-lapse strip down for parts. Well, there's the second breakage. There's a crack through the steering. So luckily we got the new part and we can fit it. So the set does come with what you need. Now, one thing with bashing this, a couple of things are shown up, is the pin. If you can see that, it's worn, so it hits the ground, and the other problem is we've got to straighten the pins. As they're not major strength parts, they should straighten up okay. I don't know what the front hoop is like. Now that's straight, no problems with that at all. Could be tougher material, but then it's the back that does take the impact. So it shows a few things has failed. But this is the thing if you bash too hard. And like I said, I have ragged on this a lot. Now this steering section is held in with a pin and it don't always come out, so we might not be able to get this out until... No, it's not going to come out until we have the chassis apart. See, now we've got it apart, you can see the tube which is held up by that screw. You can just pull it out actually, but it releases the tube. But like I said, I'm servicing it at the same time. It needs it. Everything will be cleaned up and the outer bearings will be oiled. The inner ones don't need it. They're quite clean, you know. It's just a case of transfer over to the new case once we've got a couple of bearings. So I'm going to just clean up 2 bearings, and then I'll continue filming the rebuild, because it's only sort of cleaning them and a bit of I always like to put a bit of machine oil. It soaks in well and just lubricates the surface. These are useful, saving pie trays, little mini pie trays from cakes. Perfect for the job. Now, while I've been cleaning up the front hubs, the rear hub were clean, bearings oiled. This part failed. One of the screws wouldn't tighten, so it's easier to replace it now before you lose the screw. Because I've always got plenty of them actually in stock from leftover kits where they don't use them. Right, so let's continue getting the front end back together. Now most of the truck is back together, except I've got the shock absorber tops on, but none of the bottoms parts. That's what I'm going to work on next. I'm going to strip them down. Well, I'll just have to take them apart, clean them a bit, and we're going to make some collars. So there'll be one piece where these have gone weak with time. Plus I'm going to make them cut the mill stronger. So we get them done, assembled and back on. The new preload collars are fitted. They didn't take long to knock out. They're not super accurate, but they are just for use for now. So the great thing is all we've got to do is pop it back together. Put a screw in the bottom. Slide the cap into place. And the screw goes back in. There we go, that's one done. It's nice when they're easy little mods like this. But like I said, through this rebuild we replaced the chassis, the steering arm, one outer hub on the front, but like I said, after this has been running for 9 years, so you've got to expect things to start to fail a little bit, but then it's had more use than it should have. You know, I have been rough with it, more than I should have really been. You know, but it's the pros and cons of going to a skate park. You know, it's not always that good for the car. But we'll get it back together and then we'll discuss to the next video, because there is still more work to be done, which is a bit different. There we go, the little truck is completely back together, but in the next one we're going to look at reinforcing this front cab piece. It's not too bad, but I have put a major fracture in here. So one of the things to do is stop the crack, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to grind it and fix it. So, but that's a separate video, but for now. But here's the truck, it's all back together. It's it's ready to go for a run. It's like I said, it had that last heavy run, but otherwise the little thing is held up well. There's a bit of wear and tear on the front, but being it's never been painted, it doesn't discolour or anything, but it does show fracture marks. So like I said, overall you can't complain after all these, like I said, 9 years of use. It required a chassis because of the skate park, I'll be truthful, and one worn out steering hub, but then I've had them wear out without bashing. The screws eventually do, the plastic does go in them. It's normally what goes on them is the ball end rips out and all that. And yes, we replaced the steerer.